看起来可以。好，所以我们有什么问题吗？对上次上课内容，没有的话，那我们就差不多开始。所以还是看一下，应该用这个吧。很快 review 一下。所以我们上次 review 了我们的 Oracle model，然后所以总之所谓的 Quantum Oracle 是个把 function 当做 input 的东西，我们会想象有个 n bit 的 function，small n bit 的 function，从01 to the n 到01。那我们把 truth table 写出来的话，它会是有 f0、f1 一直到 fn 减1，这张总共有大 n 个东西，大 n sorry I should speak English. Yeah, so we think about our oracles are something that makes use a function as your input. So we think about this function f that's 0, 1 to a small n to 0, 1. And if you write out its truth table, it's this f0, f1 to f to n minus 1. And so each of those truth value can be 0 or 1. And they are big N values, where big N is 2 to a small n. So we can think about this function as an input. So it's a truth table is an input as a big N bit string. Okay? So it's really long. And our algorithms will be finding some property on this big N bit string. Say like in Diogenes, you want to find where this bit string is balanced or constant, etc. And so that's the query, and the quantum query is a way to query this thing in quantum superposition. So you can have this OF corresponding to this F, and you apply this OF on a computational basis, say X and Q. Then this X register is like the input to F register, so it will stay as X. And then the second register will record the answer here. So it becomes Q plus f of x. This is the way you can get f of x. And this is the standard version of Oracle, but we like the phase version. It's more quantum, and so it's more useful for designing quantum algorithm. And the phase version look like this. It actually loads some information, but doesn't matter in Grover's algorithm too much. So f of x equal to minus 1 to the f of x, x. And it's lose some information because you actually want a control version of this. And we have proved that the control version is equivalent to the standard version. So the control version of the phase is equivalent to the standard version in previous homework. And you need a control because you can think about the constant functions, they are actually indistinguishable. Okay, and then we go to our Grover's algorithm. So we have something HR here. Okay, so we start doing Grover's algorithm, but we should probably say what the problem we are solving first. So the problem we are solving is, as we say, the search problem, and we put everything in capital letter because that's how you usually write down a problem in computer science. Okay, so the search problem, and the input, as we said, is a binary function. So input is this whole function f, the function of f of x. And as we said, there is a small n bit. Okay, so it's a small n bit input string, but for convenience, we just write this as 0, 1 to big N minus 1. Okay, so big N is 2 to a small n. And sometimes so this algorithm works even for another power of 2, but doesn't matter too much. So we just think about it's a really big, really long string from 0, 1 to, sorry, not really string. So it's just a really big set from 0, 1 to n minus 1, and then it's binary, so it maps to 0, 1. Okay, so that's the input, and then we want to find some property of this f of x. And the problem of search is you want to find some x such that f of x equal to 1. Obviously, it should be easier if there are more of those x, and harder if there are less. And anyway, so the search version of the problem is just find whatever x that has f of x equal to 1. And as we know, you can query this f. Depending on you are quantum or classical. If you are classical, you can just fill in different value and it will tell you what's f of x. And also, we want to make this more complete. So the problem is that if you if there exists an x such that f of x equal to 1, then you need to output one of them. But if such x doesn't exist, then you just say it doesn't exist. Okay. And so the search problem actually have many different formulations. And this is like the most standard version of the search version. Sometimes you are also just promised that such x exists. But anyway, so that's a search problem. And also we like decision problems. So here we also provide a decision version. This will be useful when we are trying to lower bound the query complexity. So the decision version, for decision version, we want to output 0 and 1. So when do we output 1 is when there exists any x such that f of x equals 0. So if you think about your truth table or favorite truth table of f, then it's like somewhere here there is a 1. Okay. So maybe there are a lot of zeros, just 1 somewhere, 1 somewhere. And when you output 0, then there is only one input, one kind of f of x that you should output 0. That is when everything is 0. Okay. So, and you can probably find that those two are kind of hard to distinguish, right? Where everything is 0, or somewhere there is a 1. Okay. That's what we are trying to distinguish in the lower bound. But anyway, that's the decision version. You want to see whether f of x is all 0 or not. And we'll see that this is actually very hard. And you can also see that the decision version is easier than the search version, because if you can solve the search version, you can solve the decision version. Because you output this x, when you output some x, then you know you should put output 1 here. And if you don't output x, you output 0 here. Okay? So that's a decision and a search. And also, so some more digression, you can, for this problem, you can also reduce search to decision, right? Because you can kind of do Mandarin search. You can say, is there any 1 in everything? And if there is a 1, then you cut this in half and see, is there a 1 in the first half, is there a 1 in the second half, etc. So you can kind of do that, but it's a bit tricky because I was assuming there is only one. If there are multiple, then things get more tricky. I guess it should work. Anyway. So that's the search version of the problem and the decision version. And what about classical query complexity? So obviously there's a upper bound of n. Big N is just you look through everything. And it's pretty easy to convince yourself that even with randomized query, you still need omega n queries to find the mark item. This x such that f of x equal to 1. Because, yeah, you check and there might be 1 just hiding somewhere. And you need to check order n items randomly to hit your 1 with good probability. So that's the classical query complexity, and we are going to see the quantum query complexity is theta square root n. So Q of A. Q of search equal to theta square root n. And then there is the H1 notation, which is actually quite important. That's this m here. So m is the number of x such that f of x equals 1. And this is we also call this just marked item. So, okay. And so m is the number of marked item. And why is this important? Because you can always feel it that if m is larger, then this problem is easier. Say if m equals to n, right? If you know m equals to n, then you just query everything, and or you don't even need to query if n equals to n, then you just say output whatever answer, that's a good answer. Then say that m equal to n over 2, then you just need to pick a constant number of random items, then you will see something that's marked, and then you can output it, right? So if n is larger, then the problem is easier, so this is a nice parameter to keep track of, and actually we'll express our scaling with m also. And but then there's a tricky point. We'll see later that it makes a difference whether your algorithm know m or not. Right? Does your algorithm know it? And that will make your complexity quite a bit different. We'll see later.
M is a single bit or language L a string.
M is an integer. M is an integer from 0 to n. Okay. Like big N is an integer, right? So m is the integer from 0 to n. Okay? Yeah. So it's just a number. Okay. And yeah. So for now we'll assume our algorithm know m. Okay? To make things easier. Okay. That's the easiest version of the algorithm. So that's something we'll discuss later. There is a lot of tricky point about is the m known by algorithm. Okay, and finally we back to our search algorithm. Okay, so I should probably use capital later. Anyway, so the search algorithm look like this. You start with O0 as your quantum algorithm should be. Then we apply our favorite hand to the n, so you become the equal superposition of everything, which we give it a special name side here. Then we just keep repeating over iterations, order square root n times, and as we will see, it's actually order square root n over m times, and then we do a measurement. And as we see, the global iteration, it has 4 steps that are actually 2 steps. So both of the steps is a reflection. So the first step is you apply our oracle, and then the 3 other steps, what they achieve is they apply a reflection around this side here, and so we can have a schematic where the state of algorithm you can write in this 2-dimensional plane spanned by phi and equal superposition of mark item, and then you will have something orthogonal that's equal superposition of not mark item, and then find out that two reflection actually equal to rotation. So your algorithm will start with phi and keep rotating some theta up here. And theta is is the order of 1 over square root n. Ignoring n. But anyway, say m equal to 1. Then theta will be about order 1 over square root n, and you want to rotate up here, then you need, and so you need pi over 2 divided by theta, and that's about order square root n steps, iterations to get here, then you measure and you win. Okay, so that's a review and a sketch. Any question? Otherwise, let's go to detailed derivation. Okay, so detailed derivation. Let's first look at those 3 steps carefully. And well, the 2 and the 4 are quite obvious. It's apply hand mark to the n. And the 3 is also a reflection. So it's written in this a bit funny notation. So because we want to show that if something seems to be able to construct from elementary gates. So anyway, so you apply a gate such that you map x to also x. So those x are computational basis state as always. We often forgot to say. So anyway, so you make computational basis state to computational basis state with an extra phase. So the phase is minus times -1 to delta x0. So it's a bit confusing what this 0 is. So the 0 means what is it? So 0 is the 0 in okay. 0 is this 0. Okay. So it says if x equals 0, then you do this extra -1. If x is not 0, then you don't do it. Okay. And these four things, okay. And yeah. So only when your x is 0 ket, you get the extra phase of -1. And this thing's easy to do because you think about this 0 state in computational basis and you write down in product. So once again you do this decimal to binary thing, then 0 should correspond to a binary of everything 0. So you are doing a control of, I guess a control. Anyway, yeah, you are controlling on everything being 0 here. Okay? So it's quite common controlled gate. Some kind of control Z. Yeah. Yeah. So that's this thing. And yeah, and as we say, it's a true reflection. So let's look at this more closely. So why is this a reflection? Because the thing is a reflection around 0. Yeah. So you can write this thing in a way that look like more like a reflection. Now this look like a reflection around 0, right? Because you think about how x map to something, then if x equals 0, then you get a -1 to 1, right? So you get a -1 here, then times is -1. So 0 actually don't get any phase because -1 times -1 equals +1. Okay, so 0 don't get any phase, and if you are anything other than 0, then you get a -1 phase, just because it's -1 phase. So those two things are what these actually do, and you can check that this is exactly the same as this, right? So do this once. So we'll see these similar thing happen many times. So if you have 2, 0, 0 minus I, and you put 0 here, then it's just distributed row. So 0 in product 0, actually obviously 1. So you have 2, 0 minus identity times 0, obviously 0. Then that's 0. Okay, so this one check. And 2, 0, 0 minus I times x. This x is not 0, so this inner product is not 0. So this term just disappear. So you are left with this I times x, so that's minus x. Okay? And this one check. Okay? So you see that this thing do exactly this on computational basis state. And this is a reflection because I don't know, it's a little hard to imagine high dimensional space, but if you draw this in 2 dimensions, so say if you have a state 0 here and some x here, that's perpendicular to 0, and you have a vector that has some component in 0, some component in x, and you apply this thing, then you see this component get a minus sign. So you go down here, right? So you apply this gate then the 0 component status and x component get a minus sign, and you get here. Then you can imagine if you have higher dimension, then you still reflect around these axes. But it's high dimension, it's weird. Okay. But anyway, if you see something in this form, you know it's a reflection around this vector. Okay. Question? Otherwise, we are just going to use it a whole bunch of time. Okay, so that's step 3. And now we combine. So what happens if we combine 2, 3, 4? It's an easy calculation. And as we say, we need this notation to make things a lot cleaner. So we define this phi. That's an equal superposition of all computational basis state from 0 to n-1. And the same as sigma to the n times 0. Okay. This we have seen many times in practically every algorithm we run. And so what happens if you apply the sigma to n, and on your step 3, this reflection around 0, then sigma to n, then we just do calculation. So you sigma to n on this, then okay. So let's do this slowly. So sigma to n on this, then this sigma to n times 0 become phi because this thing, and also then sigma to n on identity is become sigma to n, and then you multiply this sigma to n on this. So this thing on 0 you get this phi, and then on identity you get another sigma to n. Okay, and so the first part obviously state is projection 2 times the projection on psi, and the second part is sigma to n squared. But we know sigma squared equal to identity, and then you to the n, identity to the n is still identity. Okay. So this is once again a reflection, but now we are reflecting around a different vector, this phi vector. And you can actually kind of see this as a geometry because you have a reflection here, then this sigma to n is like a changeable basis, is a rotation in high dimensional plane. So you are just rotating this reflection to a different axis of rotation, different axis. Okay, but something, yeah. What we really care about is the number of oracle calls. And here we do 0 number of oracle calls. Those things doesn't depend on RF at all. Okay, so in terms of query complexity, this is really free. So that's really nice. I guess if we only care about query complexity, we can just say do this thing, right? Because this doesn't depend on F, and you can do whatever you want. But we write this in 2, 3, 4 just to show that also the time complexity is not too bad, because you can also do those gates efficiently. Okay. And okay, so the query complexity is really good. And as we said, the time complexity is also not too bad. You can obviously sigma to n also only require n sigmas, and you can think about this is some kind of controlled phase. I guess this is some kind of control Z. And anyway, that can be also done pretty efficiently. You can do order n. The multi-control Z. Okay, then so that's that. So our whole global iteration is an oracle call, then this reflection around side, as we have been saying. And the order looks different because remember when you do multiplication, you actually resolve from left to right to left. Okay. When you apply some state here. Okay, so that's a global iteration. Then we want to do this geometric rotation thing carefully. And we focus on this 2-dimensional plane we keep saying. So it's a plane spanned by two vectors. Obviously, two vectors will depend 2D plane. So the first vector is this psi, that's equal superposition of everything, and the second vector is beta. It's equal superposition of every mark item. So every x such that excuse me, f of x equal to 1. Okay, and as we said, there are n of them. So so we need to normalize it with 1 over square root n. Okay, so beta is the equal superposition of all mark items. And then we can have psi here and the beta here. They are not totally orthogonal because psi has some overlap with beta, because psi also has something that's micro, it's everything. But anyway, so it's not quite totally orthogonal, and we can calculate the actually orthogonal vector to beta, and that will be called alpha. And well, you can do the calculation carefully, but intuitively, so this is equal superposition of all computational basis state, and this is all mark item, and this one should be everything that's not mark item. Yeah? I think it's quite intuitive. And anyway, alpha will be the equal superposition of everything that's not mark item, and so is this. Yeah? Equal superposition of everything fx such that f of x equals 0. And there are total n items and n marks, so obviously there are n minus m items in here. Yeah. Not too hard. And so now we are considering this space spanned by beta, phi, and alpha. And the good thing is, so we need to justify that we only need to look at this two-dimensional space. And that's because our algorithm starts in the space. Not quite, but if we think our algorithm actually starts here, right? So since this point, the algorithm never leaves this two-dimensional space until you do measurement, obviously. So we kind of start here. So getting our state here is the first thing we do. And then we'll keep doing two reflections, and we'll see that those two reflections doesn't make things outside of this plane. You will make everything inside this plane back to things inside this plane. That's because okay. Yeah, we are going to check it out very soon. And yeah, and the second one is, as we said, we start with this psi inside this plane. So every step of algorithm, I guess every step means in between every global iteration will be inside this two-dimensional plane. So every step means every of those steps will be inside this two-dimensional plane. And so we only care about what happened here. Okay. And now let's see our reflections. Where are we? Okay. And as we said, our oracle code is a reflection around alpha, because when you apply this oracle on alpha, you will do nothing, because remember our OF on x equal to -1 to the f of x, and alpha is exactly things such that f of x equals 0. So so when you apply OF on alpha, then this vector disappears and you do nothing. And you apply OF on beta, then beta is sum of x such that f of x equals 1, so you get a -1 phase here. Okay? And so that's what the OF do on alpha and beta. Then you can think about your vector in component alpha and component beta. In alpha component and beta component, and beta component get a -1, so actually do this kind of reflection. If you're up here, you will reflect down. If you are down here, you will reflect up. But you are reflecting around this alpha axis. And then is 255 minus I, as we said, is a reflection around, psi. Okay, it's a reflection around psi because you can think similarly. If you are thinking about this 2D plane, then you have psi and you have something perpendicular to psi. And the psi component will stay the same. And the perpendicular component will get a minus psi. Is already calculated up there when we talk about like the third step. And so it will be a reflection around this side. Question? I've been keep talking about this many times. Hopefully you are very, very familiar now. And okay, so those are two reflections. And what happens if we have so what happens when we combine those two reflections is we'll get a rotation. Okay? And here's one more sketch. So we'll call this angle between psi and alpha, we call this theta over 2. And so a reflection around this thing and a reflection around this thing, it will actually be a rotation of angle theta. Okay. And as we say, we'll keep doing the over iteration. So we'll add theta, 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 theta until we end up with somewhere close to beta. Then we do computational basis measurement. But then we have mostly beta. So when we do computational basis measurement, we have a very high probability to get something inside beta. Okay. And and if you write down those in numbers, it will be that after you apply k times over iteration k times to your starting state side, then you will be some linear combination of alpha and beta, and will be cosine angle, sine angle, sine angle, and the angle will be k theta plus 1 over 2 theta, so this is 2k plus 1 over 2 theta. Okay, because you start with 1 over 2 theta, and every time you apply g, you get 1 more theta. So it's k theta plus 1 over 2 theta. Okay. And now a little more proof here. Proof about the angle thing. So here we have a proof about rotation being angle theta. So let's see. So we start with some state phi here, and we do our two reflections. Okay, so this phi is angle, I think gamma is this angle. This angle is with alpha. Okay. So this is gamma, and so first you do a OF reflection around alpha, then you get this angle gamma also down here. Then you do a reflection around phi, and you get a theta here. Then I should not say theta, right? So let's say let's call, how should I call this? Let's say this is theta tilde. Then we will have, so this angle should equal to this angle. So we have theta tilde plus and little. Sorry, this should be very easy. So let's do it down here. So you have theta over 2 plus gamma equal to so this thing is this plus this equal to gamma minus theta over 2. Right? Is this one is gamma minus theta over 2, and then this thing plus theta tilde. So gamma cancel, and you got theta tilde equal to theta over 2 plus theta over 2 equals theta. Okay? So we prove that this angle is theta. When we do two reflection, we actually rotate theta no matter what your starting position is. Okay? This is like elementary school math. And okay, so now we want to know how many of Go iteration actually want to do to go up here. And so let's erase all this, is quite annoying. So the number of iteration we need to do is about 1 over theta. So the thing we need to know is what is theta. So if we think about theta, is actually totally controlled by the overlap between phi and beta, right? So this is theta. Sorry, this is theta over 2. Then we know sine theta over 2 is a component between phi and beta. Right? It's like a overlap between phi and beta. Sorry, the inner product between phi and beta. And here, because everything is real, we don't need to care the ordering. And anyway, so that's sine theta over 2. It's basic. Is basic geometry. And if we do calculate the overlap, then is square root n over n. Is it correct? Okay, let's do this. It's because beta is 1 over n some marked x. F of x equal to 1 x. And phi is 1 over n. And some over x. So if you take an inner product, then this thing equal to 1 over square root mn times then how many of those? So it's some x here. Is some x such that f of x equal to 1 is some over all x. And so inner product here actually only n of them will have overlap, right? Because only n of x is here. So times m here, so that's square root m over n. Okay. Okay. And anyway, so you see that this number is when n is larger, then it's smaller, will make it harder to find as we think. And also m is larger, this number will be also larger, so make finding easier. Okay. And now we do some, so sine theta over 2 equals this, but sine, if we want to do arc sine, it's annoying, so we do some approximation. And so now it's calculus time. So we say sine theta, so theta over 2 is just bigger than sine theta over 2. Okay? Because if you plot sine, and you plot y equal to x line, then you find out the sine function is always lower than this line. And so we just approximate the sine theta over 2 is theta over 2. And then you move things around, then you find out 1 over theta is less than, So we move this here, yeah. So we find out 1 over theta is less than 1 over 2 square root n over n. Okay. And now you want, say, the number of rotations is big R, then you want at the end, or R plus theta, R plus 1 over 2 theta is, wait, did I? What do I, okay. Oh, so we are finding an upper bound, so this is a little weird. Okay, so we are saying, so what's the maximum number of R we need to do? And we are saying, so we keep rotating and we add this, and we want to stop at the place that's closest to this beta, right? If we are closer to the beta, then we have higher probability of measuring some arc item. And so there is something else, a little trick here that's not too hard. So we are saying we'll stop at the closest one. So, and the spacing here is theta, right? So if we are stopping at the closest one, then our overshoot amount, which is called delta, is going to be less than 1 over theta. Okay? Because if we are overshooting more than theta, then we can just stop here and that will be closer to beta. Okay? Or if you overshoot even more, then you can just stop it earlier. And so the maximum number of rotation we need to do. So the maximum angle here is maximum angle R plus 1 over 2 theta is going to be less than this pi over 2 plus the overshoot amount delta that is less than 1 over theta over 2. Okay? And then you move things around, this 1 over 2 cancel with this 1 over 2. Then, yeah, so theta r is less than pi over 2 theta, and you plug in this. So you know the number of rotation you need to do is less than pi over 4 square root n over n. Okay? So, then, okay. Okay, so we proved that we can get quite close here, right? So we are saying we get here and we measure, we will get this beta with pretty good probability. What's actually the probability? And let's also calculate all this nicely. So the probability of seeing a solution is, well, being a little lazy, but you can convince yourself that if you take this state and do computational basis measurement, okay, take this state and do computational basis measurement, then the probability of getting a mark item, so some item in here, is just this amplitude square, right? It's pretty easy to show, so let's skip the calculation. So you will have this probability, so this sine square k plus 1 over 2 theta. So this sine square probability to get a uniform random thing from this beta. So there are m items, so 1 over n probability to get one of them. Each one of them and 1 over n probability. And similarly, you will have cosine square probability to get a uniformly random thing from here. Okay? Are people buying this? It's like 1 or 2 lines, but let's skip that. You can, I think the idea is that if you think about doing a 2 outcome measurement that distinguish alpha and beta first, then right, you can think about doing a projective measurement or doing a basis measurement, I only have alpha and beta, and everything else. And then you do computation basis measurement. Issue those two measurement commute not quite. Okay, it's a little more confusing. It's not alpha and beta measurement. You think about you do projection onto the marked item, and projection onto not marked item. So, and this thing commute with the computational basis measurement. So you can do this first, then do computational basis measurement. Anyway, you can show this with a few calculations, and the success probability we claim that is, after doing k global iteration, is sine square of this angle. So sine square of the angle to alpha. And then the failure probability is the probability we measure this thing. So cosine square k plus 1 over 2 theta. And now let's write this in this delta number. So we say we define the overshoot amount as delta. And so this number is where do I? Oh, sorry. So we have cosine square. So cosine theta is obviously sine pi minus theta. Okay. So it's just cosine to sine and pi minus this thing. And we have defined this angle minus pi over 2 as theta. So then it is negative. So it is negative. Sorry, say this is delta. We have say this minus pi over 2 is delta, so negative is negative delta. Then sine square negative delta equals sine square delta. And anyway, so the thing we actually want to say is this thing. So actually highlight this because we use this quite a few times. Okay, so we want to bound this with bound delta with theta over 2. And so this is less than sine square theta over 2, and we know what sine square theta over 2 is, m over n. Okay. So when m is bigger, let's take a break and we will do the case analysis later, next class. Okay. Any question? Or let's take a break. Okay. Okay. Should just write it here. Okay. So any question from this class? Otherwise, let's finish this Go algorithm. Okay. So we proved that our error probability is less than m over n, and so we now have a very sketchy case, very sketchy case study to argue that this is okay if we want, say, constant error probability. That's because if m is much less than n, then obviously this error probability is very small. But so what happens if we only get in trouble when m is about same order as n? But we remember that when m is older n, then the problem is actually very easy, right? If n is same order as n, then you can even run a classic algorithm and just draw random items. Then with constant success probability, then you will have constant success probability. So when m is about equal to n, then you can just draw random item and win. Just draw many times, and you will win with good success probability in very few tries. Okay. So we prove that the failure probability is okay. Question? Okay. And now is the tricky part. And I keep saying this, is that the algorithm up here assumes that we know m. Right? That's how we can, because we say, wait, where is it? This is R thing, right? When we calculate R, we assume that we know exactly where we are. So we will stop at the we will stop our go iteration at the best possible place. We'll stop at either here or here, depending on where we are closest to beta. But then that requires you know m. If you don't know n, then you don't know theta. Then you actually don't know where on the circle you are. Right? And so if you don't know where on the circle you are, you can overshoot. So if we map all these success probability pk, then is this sine square function, right? You map all sine square, then this well, sine square is basically sine, but so it's up down and up down sinusoidal. And what we have said is that there is something that is very close to this first peak 1, and that requires number of iteration equal to power 4 square root n over n. And so that's order n over n. Okay? So what if you don't know m, then what can you do here? So there are a bunch of stupid things. Sorry, I guess that's stupid, but there are a few easy things and a few more complicated things. So easiest thing is you pick uniformly random k. Okay? You pick random k in an order square root n range. Okay. And then you have like pick a random point here, and you know the average of sine square is 1 over 2. So if you just pick a random k many times, then you don't need to pick constant time, you will have a constant success probability. Okay, so that's like the dumbest way to do this. The problem here is then you lose all this m, right? Because then you need to pick all the square root n times. So that's not the best thing you can do. Anyway, we need to talk about the other point I forgot first. So that's something you can do if you don't know m. But if you do know m, then we can make things a little better. So we spend quite a bit of time calculating this annoying small overshoot, right? We if we just do this rotation theta, we can have this annoying mismatch to pi over 2 is plus minus delta here. Okay, so that's annoying, and that can actually be dealt with if you know so we're saying if you know m, then you can basically tune your theta. You can make a theta. Okay, so making theta larger is basically impossible. Otherwise, you want theta to just reach your very face. But making theta smaller is possible. Okay? You can just add some dummy things. Not quite, sorry, you can basically make your rotation be worse. Anyway, it's possible to make theta smaller. So you can tune your theta smaller such that you will hit here exactly. Okay? And yeah. I keep forgetting this, but anyway, that might be a homework or something we cover later in the class. It's quite cool. So, yes, that's some reason that people don't care about this too much because first it's very small, and the second is it's possible to make this exact. Okay. That's very cool. But back to the case where we don't know m, then there are multiple ways to do this. So the textbook way, the way given by Niels and Trout, is that we can do something called quantum counting to estimate our m first. Okay. Then, so we estimate our m first, then we have a rough guess of m, then we can do this. But we'll see that it has trouble. It's also a bit troublesome. Easier way to do this, but we are still going to cover quantum counting just later today because it's something quite useful by itself. The easier way to do this is you can do a binary search, not quite binary, but kind of binary search on m. Yeah. So basically, what you do is you are thinking you run Gover's algorithm with m getting smaller and smaller. Okay. So you are thinking you are running with m equal to n, or n over 2, or n over 4, etc. And the thing is, obviously your m is not going to exactly any of these. But say if your m equal to, let's say, n over 3, then it's something in between here, right? Then when you run those two things, you will have a pretty good probability to get a mark item. Okay. Right? Because it's like a constant ratio to this. Obviously, each of them you need to run multiple times to like get a good success probability. And so that's what you can do. And so the other way to see this is you run, so we start with big M. So we are running a Grover iteration, trying with Grover iteration with from very small number to very large number. So we're trying with iteration is 1, or square root to take 4, then or square root to square iteration, etc. So you try with this exponential growing series until you find a mark item, and each one of them you should try many times, so each one of them may have like 70% success probability, and you need to amplify it to whatever probability you want to have, like 99%, and I don't know, you need to turn off it. Okay. And this actually doesn't change your symptomatic complexity at all, because the number of extra things you need to do is like a geometric series. So you actually only need to do a constant factor more. The extra number of search you need to do is only a constant factor. So this doesn't change the complexity, so you are still on this order square root n over m number of times. Okay? So this is possible. But let's talk about more complicated thing. I guess before we start quantum counting, any question? Or basic over search and is overshooting issue? No? Okay, then let's talk about this a bit annoying part of quantum search because you are going to see. Anyway, sorry, not quantum search, quantum counting. And okay, so the question here is you want to estimate, I want to say RM. That's the whole point of quantum counting. So it's a different problem, and the setup is it's very similar to Gopher, so let's not repeat it. We have the same function, but now instead of just finding one x, you want to find the number of x such that f of x equals 1. So in other words, you want to find this m. Okay. So n, as we say, is a number from 0 to 1. Okay. X such f of x equal to 1. And okay, but as we will see, if you want to calculate the m exactly, it's very hard. So we allow an approximation factor. So we allow algorithm to have an error to this m, and we call it epsilon, and it's a multiplicative error. So if you want to calculate the additive error delta m, that's epsilon times m. And we'll show that this is possible with order 1 over epsilon square root n over m queries. Okay. And one thing we could say for now is that our notation is different from the textbook. So the textbook uses epsilon to say other thing, but this is consistent with literature. So we'll use epsilon to denote this multiplicative error here. The textbook is only using delta m, so the textbook don't use this multiplicative error. But anyway, so this is a test. Everyone okay with this? And you can probably feel that this is quite useful if you want to count the number of solutions or number of whatever item in your function. Okay?
So we don't know order n, so we like to using this kind of quantum counting.
Yeah. So this is our motivation, but it's obviously also useful. I can say if you want to solve Sharpie problem, then you can count the number of solutions to your NP verifier, right? Something like this. And anyway, so that's this epsilon, and the additive error delta m is epsilon times m, just basic. And say if you want, and also we say the query complexity of algorithm is this, and so if you want this thing to be a constant, then you find out that you need so if you want this delta m to be a constant, so basically epsilon equal to 1 over m, then you need order square root m queries. Okay. And so this is also what happens if you want to know m exactly, right? So constant can be 1, right? You want to m to plus minus 1, then you want error to be plus minus 1, then you need square root m queries. And you see that is actually quite a lot because because your m is large, then you need n queries. So it's pretty bad for you. Anyway, so let's keep going. So what our algorithm do is we'll combine those two chapters. So we'll do our phase estimation on the global iteration G. Remember, this global iteration is our two reflection, or two reflection into one rotation. And hopefully you still remember what phase estimation do. Yeah. And now the funny part is, when we do quantum counting, do we know M? Okay. Okay. So the problem is, I think the textbook algorithm also assume you know M. So it's kind of counting to estimate M, but actually I'm not very sure about this. But let's see how it works. Yeah. And anyway, as we said, our global iteration is rotation, at least in our two-dimensional space, right? So it's a rotation by angle theta, and so if you write out rotation of angle theta into like a 2x2 matrix, then it's this cosine theta minus sin theta. Yeah. And you can calculate eigenvalue. Obviously, it depends on theta. It's not too hard to calculate, so skip that, and you will find out that the eigenvalues are, well, two eigenvalues are e to I theta and e to I 2 pi minus theta. And so that's the eigenvalue in your alpha beta subspace. Okay. Nothing too much happen. And then you can see why this works, right? So remember, we have this equation relating theta to n over n, and we also n is something we know. Okay. So m is something we don't know. So if we can learn theta here, then you can get theta from here. You get m from this theta. Right? You can do this sin squared theta over 2 equal, and times n equal to your m. Yeah. And anyway, so your theta will be about, so if you think about m is much smaller than n, then theta is about square root n over n times 2. And now here we do some funny operation first. So we append a bunch of 0 to our truth table. And remember, our truth table is f0 to fn minus 1. So we append a whole bunch of 0. So now we are actually querying over 2n things. And but the other things are all 0 down here. I want to do this so that we are not confused by this theta and the 2 pi minus theta. Okay. So this is really nothing happening, just change it to 2n. So that our theta, when we do phase estimation, will actually be small. And then we do another different notation from the book, is this delta. Now we say delta is error probability of our algorithm, or more precisely, it's error probability of our phase estimation. Remember, phase estimation is some probability delta that you just get a wrong answer. Okay? And it's different from a book. The book code is in epsilon, but we already have our epsilon being our multiplicative area to m. And anyway. So the algorithm is actually just this thing here that I should make it more obvious, right? The algorithm is you do phase estimation, you learn theta, then you learn m. Okay? It's very simple. And what's annoying thing is now we want to bound is query complexity. So like what's the precision we need to make our m have the precision we want. Okay? So we want to know the error in delta, error in theta, how does that relate to error in m. And well, now we use our favorite phase estimation error probability formula. Okay. So we know our phase estimation, if we use t bit, t equal to m plus this log 1 over delta term, then we can have m bits of precision. Okay. m bit precision. M bit precision. This is what we learn in from our painful analysis to phase estimation. Okay. And so we use this many bits in our phase estimation, and our input state is obviously this phi. That's I should say 1 over n, right? Sorry, 1 over, no, it's 1 over 2n. Use right here. 1 over 2n because we expand our space to 2n. Yeah. So our psi is equal superposition as yeah. And I guess we didn't say it's the never mind. Yeah, it's something in this two-dimensional space, and it's not an eigenstate, but we know the eigenvalue are only those two things, so we will get one of those two anyway. Okay. We just need something in this two-dimensional space. And so this is, as a reminder, is our phase estimation algorithm. You have t bits of precision, not quite t bits of precision, t bit measurement outcome, and you have m bit precision where m is smaller than t. A bit funny. And you apply this u to j. This is TB controlled unitary. And anyway, so you do phase estimation, and as we say, you will learn theta or 2 pi minus theta. And you have this MB precision, so the error in your theta is going to be less than 2 to the minus n. This is what we mean by precision. And then there was some probability that you get something even worse than this, and the probability is delta. And so good probability is 1 minus delta. And because we do this, and now let's do the painful analysis of sin squared theta over 2 equal to n over n. So this is a bit more painful than usual. So usually, because we are assuming that delta m can be kind of large, usually when you do this kind of thing, so I'm not sure if physics department will see this kind of thing a lot. Do I have that? Okay, yeah. So if physics department will do this kind of differential thing, so if everything is small, then sin theta is about theta, so you have like a theta over 2 squared about this thing. Then you kind of do derivative on both parts. So you do the derivative by theta on this part, then it's 2 times theta over 2 times, and differentiate, you get delta theta here. Then you differentiate with m here, then you get dm here. And then we will get the relation between dm and d theta. So you cancel all those tools, and you see dm is about square root m and d theta. But we'll do this more careful than this infinitesimal analysis. So anyway, we start with this thing, and this is not n over n anymore. So from previous class it's n over n. We expand n to 2n, so it's 2n here. Anyway, and now what's the difference on this side? So we think about delta n over 2n, then that's whatever this side with delta theta minus this side with theta, right? Everybody agree? Because that's how we estimate m. We estimate m as this thing. So delta m is whatever this side with delta theta minus this side with no delta theta. I guess we are, yeah, should be fine. Yeah. And okay, then now let's play trigonometry. So first we have x squared minus y squared equal to x plus y times x minus y. Okay. And because I have absolute value, so everything still have absolute value. Also because we know this part should be positive, should be all positive, so we skip the absolute value here. Don't think yeah. And then we need to deal with those two terms separately. So then the second term, we use the what's that called? I forgot again. 和差化剂. But anyway, we use the trigonometry formula. We have a difference between sine, and we change that to cosine times sine. So this is what's that? So sine alpha plus beta minus sine alpha minus beta equal to, and this thing is sine alpha cosine beta plus sine. How do you usually do that? Cosine alpha sine beta, then minus sine alpha cosine beta minus cosine alpha sine beta. Okay? And so this cancel, then you get twice cosine alpha sine beta. Okay? Hopefully you remember trigonometry. But anyway, so you have this cosine alpha here, then sine beta here. And now you bound these to something much easier. Then you just get rid of this cosine, it's less than 1. And you say sine something is less than something, sine x less than x. So this is just less than theta, delta theta over 4. And we are actually doing this bound very carelessly. And we say it's even less than delta theta over 2. Okay? And yeah, so we're actually not doing this bound too tight. And then do I? Oh, okay. So I think I actually never mind. Okay. Then this thing we do similar thing. So sine alpha plus beta. Then we have sine alpha cosine beta plus cosine alpha sine beta, and then we just ignore the cosine term, I believe. So that's then less than is sine theta over 2 plus, and we also bound this theta with this delta theta. Okay. And I missed one term. Okay, I don't think I'll matter though. Sine theta over 2. Oh, never mind. Okay. Okay, so I think we're actually keeping the. Sorry for going back and forth. So I think this should actually be absolute value. Will make things easier. anyway, so we have sin theta over 2, okay. And anyway, so then these two things we break into the absolute value of this and this. And the absolute value of sin theta over 2 is positive, so that's just sin theta over 2. And so we just break this term, right? So this term is here, and the sin theta over 2 plus delta theta over 2. And then you plus another sin theta over 2, so you have 2 sin theta over 2. And then you have this delta theta over 2. Then the other term, as we say, is this delta theta over 2. Okay. And finally, oh, so I made a mistake here again. Well, let's keep going with this. And well, finally we put things together, and we want to express everything n and m, so we change this sin theta over 2 to this m and n thing again. So let's change sin theta over 2 to square root n over 2m, m over 2n, and you have a multiplied by 2, so it's this thing. And this term, now every delta theta, finally we can use our precision on delta. So delta theta is less than 2 to the minus m. And so this term is 2 to the minus m plus 1, and this term is 2 to the minus m plus 1. And finally, we remember we still have a 2n here, so we multiply everything with 2n. And I believe this 2 will cancel with this plus 1 here, so you get 2 to the minus m. And you have n inside, so square root 2mn, and n over 2 over n over 2 to n plus 1. Okay? And so that's the result. And you see that this term has another 2 to the minus n, so usually this term is much smaller, but it's annoying. Okay, let's see. And okay, so finally we want to change back to our epsilon. And so delta n, as we say, is epsilon times m. And that means epsilon times m is about this 2 to the minus m. So now we are ignoring a constant factor now. It's about 2 to the minus m times square root n. And we calculate that 2 to the n equal to okay, yeah, 2 to the n equal to, we'll just move things around, equal to our 1 epsilon square root n over m. Okay. And this is very close what we want. Now finally, we think about what's the number query. Okay. So we've been moving things around, and we have been expressing our error. We have changed our error around, right? Remember what we're doing? Our error was delta, and we changed delta. Sorry, error was delta theta, then we changed to delta m. And but we are expressing this delta m. Sorry, this delta m. Then we change delta m to epsilon. But we have been expressing everything in this small m. But what's actually number of query is 2 to the t. So the number of query is the number you apply here. And remember you have t bits here, then the number of query you apply is about 2 to the t. So what's 2 to the t? 2 to the t is number of query, and So t is this thing, right? So 2 to the t is about 2 to the m and times this. But you have log here, so it's about 1 over delta. So 2 to the t is about 2 to the m times order 1 over delta. And yeah, so if we ignore this delta term, then the number query is this 2 to the m, and it's this 1 over epsilon square root n over n. And then we go back to justify that we can ignore this term. And that's because if we actually calculate the correction that give you on this term, then it's n over 2 to the m times 2 n over 2 to the m times 2 to the minus m, so it's about n to the 2 to the minus 2m. And we plug things, then it's about n times this thing squared, right? And yeah, n times this thing square and the inverse, so it's about epsilon square and n over n. And anyway, what I want to say is the extra correction you get is about epsilon square times m, and obviously epsilon is less than m, so the extra term is small, is yeah. So the extra term is smaller than the actual correction you get. Depends on how small your epsilon is. Okay? The smaller the epsilon is, the smaller than this. Ignoring this is less. Yeah, it's doing less. But anyway, only care about the order here. So yeah, that's a proof of our quantum counting takes this number of queries, and okay, and now we have a few extra lines here. So if we want to do our counting very exact, right, then the number of query, as we said, so we want delta m equal to 1. That's like when you want the n to be precise, then you put into this formula delta m equal to 1 and epsilon about 1 over m. Then your number query you need is square root n. And so when m is very large, when m is order n, then this is very hard. But so now back to our global search. Right? This is a global one. So if we want to do global search, then when you pick our number query about order square root n, then what we will get is our delta m will be about order square root n. And I guess you need a few extra calculation, but it can be shown that if you know n to actually well, I think it's kind of obvious. So if you know m delta m to this, then delta m to m is less than is like small 1. Then delta m to m is about small 1. And it's obvious that we can check with your Gover algorithm. Check your success probability, and you can show that this will make sure that you can do Gover with very good success probability. But okay, so let me try here. I think you don't need this. Okay, so you can see that this is, so this is what the textbook give. But you can see that this is quite bad, right? Because you need q equals square root n. But what we actually want is q equals square root n over m, right? And so how we feel that is we actually use q about this. Then we see here is this thing, right? So we use q equals square root n over m. So q about square root n over m. Then we have constant epsilon. And that it should already give you constant success probability for your Gover. Because everything is kind of linear, right? If you're, let's see. Yeah. So if you think about theta here, so you get some constant here, then you will get like a constant on your theta. That's actually a little weird. I think that should fly. So if you have a constant multiplicative, a constant error on your m, then we will get also about a multiplicative constant error on your theta. So you think about the rotation angle, you have a constant error. Then instead of something around pi over 2, you get like a plus minus constant range theta. But so if the constant is not too big, then you are okay, right? So say that you get a 1% error here, and you get a 1% error on theta, then instead of this 90 degree, then you get plus minus 1 degree, and it will be very fine. Okay. So something like that. Okay. Oh, I guess if we want to analyze the error probability, okay, that's very dumb. If we want to analyze the error probability, then we actually only need to, then we don't even need to think about the error in the m, because we already have the error in theta here, right? We are estimating theta. So anyway, if we are estimating theta to some constant additive error, then we'll be fine, right? Because if you are in 90 degree plus minus 10 degree, then you are okay. Then you have like a sine square 80 degree probability of getting a correct answer, and they will be correct. Okay. And if you want constant theta error, you only need constant m. Let's see. Yeah, you want constant theta error, you only need constant m. And that's fine. So yeah, so the textbook is a little confusing because because I don't know why he picked Q so large. I don't think you need Q so large. And actually, then we don't need these red text. I was thinking that because everything related, you need to know M to pick the things correct. But seems like you just need to pick constant M, right? Constant small m. Okay, so sorry, there are small m and big M. I think if you pick constant small m, then you get constant delta theta, and you will be be pretty fine. Okay. And anyway, so that's quantum counting, and let's clean things up a little bit. And the thing we want to remember is this thing is the query complexity of quantum counting to epsilon multiplication area, and when you have m mark item. And but I guess this is still a bit relevant. So now we are back into. Okay, so if you only want like constant theta error, then we are kind of fine. We can just do constant theta error. But if you want this exact scaling, then it's a bit tricky because everything is related, right? When you want to do this, you need to know your t. You need to know how many precision you want on your phase estimation. But if you want to know t, then you need to know your small m. And if you want to know your small m, you need to know your big M. Okay, so it's very annoying. So if you want to actually use this, then it seems like you need to know your big M to do quantum counting. And but the quadrant is already you need to know big M. So quadrant mark. Yeah. So it seems like you need to know kind of estimate ion to know this, to have this kind of query complexity. Okay, so that's very annoying, and there are a few ways to do this. So the dumbest way to do this is you just assume you don't see this in here, and you just use all the square root n times 1 over epsilon probably. You just use all the square root n queries to do your quantum counting. I think this is what textbook do, right? This is why he just said this. So you can just use square root n queries, and then your square root n times your 1 over epsilon queries, then you will know your m2 1 over epsilon because you're using more precision than required. Okay. And but if you want to keep your 1 over m scaling, then you need to do something smarter. Oh, what happened? Okay. Yeah. So then you need to once again use some kind of binary search thing. Okay. So it's scrolling up is this kind of thing. Okay. So we need to think about incorporating this kind of thing in your quantum search, so that you will keep your 1 over m scaling. It's 1 over square root m scaling to your query complexity of quantum counting. And anyway, so we are almost done. Let's wrap up here. Anyway, that's the query complexity of quantum counting, and you can probably see here that it's also very close to the time complexity. I believe the time complexity is not too different. Yeah, it's all our favorite element, right? It's phase estimation. And obviously you need to do controlled version of your gate. And also compared to classical, so you get a quadratic speed up. So classical is actually just everything square. You can prove that. If classical, you want to count how many one in your oracle, then you need this 1 over epsilon square over m. And so next time we'll do a little read up about the new research result. So basically the most important thing is you don't need to do QFT. Okay? Because you see this is a global algorithm, but to do counting you don't really need to combine the QFT thing. QFT is pretty hard to implement. So there is a way to do just global iteration. And we'll see that next time. And any question? Otherwise, yeah, let's raise up the quantum counting again, and maybe we'll start. Yeah, we should be starting our lower bound. Lower bound is harder.
就是前面讲那个 global iteration 的地方，
嗯
然后我尝试用这个公式去写它，如果发现解出来的话，它的正负号怪怪，就是我会得到负 cos，然后跟正 sin。
负口塞跟正塞应该不会吧？
因为如果我设 sin 是那个，
应该算错吧？
因为我设 sin 是这个样子，对不对？然后这样的话，它们就是乘起来会长这个样子。然后这一项是 cos 1/2它的平方，所以展开就是1/2。
对啊，所以现在我帮你验算法也是可以。没问题。我看一下哦，所以是验算一个，可是为什么你乘的东西有点奇怪？你是怎么算的？
哦，我是塞在这个。
塞是为什么塞是长这样？我现在有点乱。哦，塞是 OK，starting 塞是长这样。啊，为什么你要乘？为什么你要乘塞啊？好吧，也可以吧。
哦，因为 G 不是等于2倍的塞对自己外积，然后减掉 I。
不是啊。
不是这样算吗？
这只是其中一个G 是你的 Oracle， 然后还有这个iteration 嘛，这个是我们有那个对 G 是下来再上去，然后你算的这个只有上来这个。哦。对 ，OK， 所以
下去的部分。
对。
哦好，那我再改一下，谢谢，不好意思。
OK。